A 22-year-old soldier from Iowa is standing 2 feet from a wooden railing in southwest Georgia. He weighs 94 pounds. He has been here 11 weeks. The water on the other side of the railing is fractionally cleaner than the water on his side. He is not thinking about escape. He is thinking about a cup. He reaches. There is no warning. The shot comes from a wooden platform 12 feet up the wall. He's dead before his knees hit the dirt. That railing was called the deadline. And every time you tell your boss you'll have something done by Friday, you are using a word that was minted at that exact line. The word was carried out of that camp by survivors, sanded down by printers, polished by newspaper editors, and slipped into your Google Calendar without a single fingerprint on it from where it came. Deadline. 28% of the men who walked through the gate of this camp never walked back out. 12,920 bodies in 14 months in a stockade designed to hold 10,000 and packed with 33,000 at its peak. By August of 1864, more Americans were dying at this single Confederate prison than in most major battles of the entire Civil War. If you've heard this story, you've heard about half of it. The villain you think invented the word didn't. The original document everybody quotes isn't actually the first one. And the way the word made the jump from a stockade in Georgia to your inbox runs through a printing press most YouTube videos forget to mention. Stick with me. The rest is worse than the version you've heard. Start with the geography. February 1864. Camp Sumter, near a railroad junction in Macon County, Georgia, about 120 miles south of Atlanta. The Confederacy is losing the war. Prisoner exchanges have collapsed because the Confederate government refuses to count black Union soldiers as legitimate combatants. The North will not negotiate around it. So Confederate commanders need somewhere to put thousands of captured Union men, and they need it fast. What they build is a 16.5-acre stockade of rough-hewn pine logs, sunk 5 feet into the Georgia red clay, rising 15 feet above the ground. There are no barracks inside, no latrines worth the name, no kitchen. The only water source is a small creek that runs through the camp, fouled within weeks by sewage drainage. By August of 1864, more than 33,000 men are crammed into a space designed for 10,000. The American Battlefield Trust, working off the actual census records preserved in the National Archives, gives a peak population of around 33,000 and a total throughput across the camp's 14-month operation of roughly 45,000. 13,000 died, dysentery, scurvy, exposure, hookworm, according to a 2010 reanalysis by historian Rosemary Drisdell, starvation, gunfire. And here is the engineering problem the camp commander, a 41-year-old Swiss-born former physician named Henry Wirz, was trying to solve. The walls were tall, but a healthy man could climb them, and the guards in the elevated platforms, called pigeon roosts because they perched the sentries above the wall like roosting birds, couldn't see straight down at the base of the stockade. Prisoners could press up against the inside of the wall, work at the logs, dig under, signal accomplices on the outside. So Wirz, or somebody under him, ordered the construction of a low railing 19 to 20 feet inside the wall, all the way around the perimeter. Sometimes it was a wooden plank nailed to short stakes. Sometimes it was just a row of stakes. Sometimes, according to the eventual war crimes indictment, it was nothing more than a line scratched into the dirt. Crossing it meant death. Standing order to the guards in the pigeon roosts, shoot to kill. No warning, no shouted command, no second chance. A prisoner who reached over the line for a cup of cleaner water died on the spot. A prisoner delirious with fever who stumbled across it died on the spot. Survivors writing later would describe seeing men killed on the line so often that the Daily Report stopped recording it as anything more than a count. And here is where I need to be careful, because this part of the story matters for the people watching who have lost somebody to despair. There were prisoners at Andersonville who walked across the line on purpose. The historian's record is clear about that. I am not going to dwell on it, and I am not going to romanticize it. The conditions they were trying to escape were criminal. The men who built those conditions stood trial for it. Now the part nobody tells you. Henry Wirz did not invent the deadline. I'd believed he had. I think most people who have read about Andersonville believe he had. The popular narrative, the one that runs through every YouTube video and Reddit thread on this topic, treats Wirz as the inventor and Andersonville as the original. It is a clean villain story. It is also wrong. Here is what I found. Sitting at a kitchen table in October with a stack of documents printed off the National Archives website and the Naval War College's published research record, there is an inspection report from a Confederate captain named Walter Bowie, dated May 10, 1864, addressed to Brigadier General R.H. Chilton, the Inspector General of the Confederate Army. Bowie's report is filed in the official records of the Union and Confederate Armies, Series 2, Volume 7, page 137. It describes Andersonville's deadline in passing, the way you describe an existing thing you assume your reader is already familiar with. That report predates the more famous Chandler inspection by almost 3 months. Then there's Camp Oglethorpe, a Confederate prison in Macon, Georgia, where the term was being used by June 1864 under a colonel named George C. Gibbs. Gibbs only transferred to Andersonville in October. Then there's the Union Prison at Rock Island, Illinois, where the term shows up in October of 1864 as well, on the other side of the war. The deadline, in other words, was not Wirz's invention. It was a Confederate and possibly Union military convention that he inherited and weaponized to a horrifying degree. David A. Kelly Jr., an associate professor at the Naval War College, has documented this lineage in print. Almost no popular content cites him. I am not absolving Wirz. He was tried, convicted, and hanged for war crimes, and the verdict reads correctly to me at 160 years of distance. But the story of a single monster inventing a single evil is, like most stories of single monsters, a comfortable simplification. The truth is uglier. The system was already in the institutional memory of 19th century military prisons. Wirz didn't build the gun. He just pulled the trigger, on average, every 4 hours for 14 straight months. Pause for a second. Picture an afternoon in late July 1864, Macon County, Georgia. Heat above 90. The air over the camp would have smelled of unburied bodies, of sewage, of wood smoke from 1,000 small cooking fires fed by any wood the prisoners could pull out of the ground. There was no shade, no shelter. Men dug small holes in the dirt called shebangs and crawled into them. Now picture the soldier from the opening, 22, from Iowa, 94 pounds, standing 2 feet from the line. He has not thought about escape in a month. He is thinking about a cup. He reaches. 1,400 miles north in the same week, a man at a desk in a Manhattan office is irritated because his copy boy is late. He looks at his pocket watch. He looks at the door. He has no idea that a word is about to migrate from a stockade in Georgia, through a printing press in the 1880s, through a newsroom in the 1920s, all the way to the inbox of a stranger in 2026. But it is. The chain has already started. He just doesn't know it yet. Here's the rest of the chain. Stage 3 is the trial. The Andersonville deadline enters the public record through Wirz's 1865 war crimes proceeding, which was the first major American war crimes trial and which established a number of procedural precedents that would later show up at Nuremberg. The transcript is exhaustive. The phrase deadline appears dozens of times in 2-word form. The trial is reported in every major northern newspaper for months. The word enters journalistic and legal vocabulary attached to a specific image. Stage 4 is the printing press. By the 1880s, American printing presses, particularly the rotary cylinder presses that came into wide use after the Civil War, had a physical guideline marked on the print bed. Type set past that line wouldn't transfer ink properly to the page. It would print as a blur, or it wouldn't print at all. Printers, with the dark humor of trade workers everywhere, started calling it the deadline. Type past the deadline was literally dead copy. The Oxford English Dictionary records this printing trade usage as a documented intermediate step. The word survives a transition from a place to a piece of equipment. Stage 5 is the newsroom, the 1920s. Daily newspapers, especially in big city competitive markets like Chicago and New York, ran on incredibly tight production schedules. There was a literal cutoff time set by the press foreman, after which copy could not be added to that day's edition. If your story didn't make the deadline, your story was dead. The press would run without you. Christopher Daly, a journalism historian at Boston University, traces the temporal usage to this newsroom adoption. That's where the word picks up the meaning you live by, from a printing press, which got it from a stockade, which got it from a Confederate inspection report somebody filed 3 months before the version most YouTube videos credit. The word migrates from a place to a thing to a time. Each migration is a small lie of forgetting. By the time it reaches you on a calendar reminder for Friday at 5 p.m., the original violence has been so completely sanded out of the surface that you don't even feel the splinter. That is the trick the English language plays. It launders. Words that begin in blood end up in business. The brutal becomes the bureaucratic. You say things every day, things like deadline, things like decimate. Originally the Roman army's punishment of executing every 10th man in a unit. Things like assassin from the Hashishin sect of medieval Persia, that started as descriptions of organized human cruelty and ended up as descriptions of office workflow. The vocabulary of empire becomes the vocabulary of the inbox, and nobody flinches because nobody remembers. I want to be careful here, because this is the part of the script where I owe you the moral weight. The deadline at Andersonville was not an interesting bit of trivia. It was a war crime that killed actual American men, most of them young, most of them from Iowa and Ohio and New York and Michigan, most of them buried in mass graves at what is now the Andersonville National Cemetery in Sumter County, Georgia. If you ever find yourself in southwest Georgia, the cemetery is open to the public, free of charge. The graves are arranged in tight rows, shoulder to shoulder, the way the men slept in life because there wasn't any other room. Your deadline on Friday is not a war crime. It is just a calendar reminder. But the word you use for it is a souvenir from one. Right now, while you are watching this video, somewhere in the United States, somebody is being told they have a deadline. Somebody is sweating through a Sunday night because Monday morning is a deadline. Somebody is canceling dinner with their family because the deadline is tomorrow. The word is so deeply embedded in the operating system of modern American work that you encounter it dozens of times in a typical workday without ever pausing on the syllables long enough to ask where it came from. Henry Wirz was hanged on a clear November morning in 1865 on a gallows that stood in the courtyard of the old Capitol Prison in Washington, D.C., 2 blocks from where the United States Capitol now sits. The crowd watching included Union soldiers who had survived his camp. The official record says he refused a blindfold. 160 years later, the word he helped weaponize is the most common scheduling term in the English-speaking world. The dead are still in their rows in Sumter County. 12,920 white headstones set so close together they almost touch. The word is in your inbox right now. That is what a real ghost looks like, not chains in an attic. 8 letters in a calendar reminder. You've been haunted your whole working life. You just couldn't see it.